Okay, we've all been there. 200 pages into your Security Plus study guide reading, and your eyes are crossing from exhaustion. You're wondering, does any of this even connect with the real world? One of the best ways to apply your learning is to try it out for yourself. And my guest today, Infosec Skills author Professor Robert McMillen, has a host of suggestions for low cost, low risk security tasks that you can try for yourself to determine whether you have what it takes to keep going in cybersecurity. And as a bonus, Robert gives some pretty outstanding advice for taking these hands-on experiences and interjecting them into your first job interviews. All that and a lot more in this week's Cyberwork Hack. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Cyberwork Hacks. The purpose of this spin-off of our popular Cyberwork podcast is to take a single fundamental question and give you a quick, clear, and actionable solution or a new insight into how to utilize Infosec products and training to achieve your work and career goals. So today's hack is a little different, but my guest is longtime friend and collaborator of Infosec, Professor Robert McMillen. Robert has been an instructor and creator of our Infosec Skills modules for a while now, and I had Robert on an early episode of Cyberwork. It was a great chat. Hope you check it out. But as well as Robert's other hacks in the series, we've got several others in the can. Hopefully you've seen them by now. But I'm very excited to have him back for this particular hack, which is aimed at cybersecurity novices. So the idea here is we're talking to beginning learners, and this is for folks who aren't sure if they have what it takes to go down a cybersecurity career path and really go for it. So I wanted to see if we can come up with some ways to prove to yourself, and by extension, a future employer, that you have what it takes in the old brain box to work in cybersecurity. So thank you for your time again, Robert, and pleasure to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
So yeah, like I said, a lot of my guests have talked about a time when they were young and they tried a certain thing. Maybe they finished, programming something and it worked, or they designed an app for a class and it was a big hit, with their fellow students, or they built their own computer from scratch and their family used it for years. So it could be a big thing or a small thing, but it was something that they could accomplish. And it said, you can do this. And it also got them excited to see what's the next thing that I can do, So, it can be easy to keep studying abstractly and maybe even, collect a bunch of certs. But I think some hands-on experience can really lock things in faster. So, Robert, can you suggest a manageable security project, something you can get your head around and finish that will help you've got a good handle on the concepts around cybersecurity?
Sure, Chris. I remember when I first started making video courses, and what I found was that the more complex the courses became, the more difficult it was for the company as I was doing the courses for to even provide me with the equipment I needed. So, for instance, my first video course after just doing YouTube videos was with LinkedIn Learning, and they said, what do you need? And I said, I just need a couple of Windows 2012 servers and have them network together. Okay, fine. And then they started saying, okay, what do you need now? Well, I'm going to be doing software-defined networking that requires this, and this. And they go, we don't have that.
Yeah,
so
right.
I had to procure my own equipment for that. And to this day, a lot of the courses, including the ones I do for Infosec, I use my own equipment just because it's gotten more and more complicated. But for those of you who are just starting out, there's a lot of great options. So when you sign up for the Infosec Institute, of course, you do get a free trial. And so definitely recommend that you do that. And there's all kinds of great labs and great things that you can sign up to take. For instance, on my courses, I have, a Windows Server and client course, on security. I created labs for people at the intro and at the intermediate range that you could do online. The great thing about online labs are you don't need high-end equipment. You don't need to buy $40,000 like I did. I bought $40,000 of equipment just so I could do my courses because all that stuff's in there. It's in the background, it's sitting on, servers that have the complexity and things like that, like you would have in a corporate environment. So you may not be able to attain all of these, different pieces to do some of the more complex stuff. However, it is certainly possible for you to get your own lab going, just as I did in the early days. Now, besides the InfoSec Institute, I have found that if you don't have the money yet to do, a long-term monthly subscription yet, because you're really just getting started, and maybe you need something just as basic can be. I remember trying to save a file the first time on a Windows computer, because I started out as an Apple guy, a Macintosh.
Okay.
And I had to save it with a file extension. I'm like, we don't use that in Macintosh. What do we need that for? So, if you're really at that level, like I was when I first got started, then you can go to learn.microsoft.com, sign up with your email account, and they have some free projects that you can do online, and they walk you through. I mean, it's basic stuff. We call this high level, 50,000 foot level. Yes. Don't expect that once you take these that you're ready to get a job in cybersecurity.
Right.
This is just real
hand-holding intro stuff here.
Training.
Make sure you're really comfortable.
Exactly. The InfoSec Institute does have introductory courses, but I've never seen anything as simple as what I've seen at learn.microsoft.com.
Love it.
So you can go there. They've got the videos and the intro text and then the labs and stuff like that. Then you can sort of graduate on to more advanced courses. I love the fact that InfoSec has some advanced courses for people who are lifelong learners. I mean, those folks, is like, okay, what's the next thing? Because technology changes so quickly. It's hard for me to keep up with it. So I'm going to learn from someone who has kept up with it. And then I'll be at that level, at some point. And 3 years from now, I got to kind of start all over again, don't I?
As we all do. It's good. Sometimes it's 6 months from now, but Robert was talking about infosecinstitute.com/skills. If you sign up for a free month of that, you can sort of poke around in there and see what's interesting to you. And as Robert said, you can check out his Windows 10, Server 2019, and Windows 11 Server 2022. And a lot of our skills learning paths have cyber ranges and sort of hands-on things. So it's pretty cool. Like they'll give you a little simulation of a command prompt environment, and you can actually go through and do all the pieces yourself. You can you can do code injection, you can do some sort of capture the flag things or whatever, and you can really lay hands on it in a sort of low stakes situation where you're not going to break anything. You're not going to all you got to do is reset it and start over if you messed up. And I think that's really, really conducive to learning. We've had a lot of guests on who have said that they dismantled their family's computer when they were 12 years old and then put it back together. But it can be a little scary if it doesn't work out, and maybe that's the last thing you ever do with your family. But
that's true.
In this case, let's talk a little bit about doing some of these projects. You do something hands-on, and do you have any advice for sort of designing like the scope of the project that you would want to accomplish? Because like you said, it's one thing to say like learn.microsoft.com. Okay, I did this to this. Now, like, how do you sort of like plan for yourself to say, okay, what's the next hardest thing I can do for myself to sort of feel like I'm moving up the ladder? What's your advice there?
Nothing feels as good as getting your hands dirty in your own project. And so what I recommend is that you start out, assuming that you have a decent computer with, say, at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you don't, see if you can upgrade it or obtain a new or borrowed computer that you're able to do this with. If it's a Windows computer, you can go ahead and install Hyper-V on it. It's just a feature that you can check the box. When you go into the control panel, the system settings, you can add Hyper-V, and it also includes, if you have the professional version, the enterprise version, or even the student version, then you can get a free virtual machine operating system for another Windows 10 or 11, as well as Linux versions that you can install. That's all included right in there in Hyper-V on any one of those versions of Windows. Now, if you have a home version, you can upgrade it. It's not that expensive. You can Microsoft would love for you to upgrade it. It's just go to Microsoft's website and say, hey, upgrade my operating system. and then you can get all those advantages. However, let's say you don't want to use Hyper-V. Let's say you want to go a different direction. You can install VMware Workstation. The current one, I think, is 17, or VirtualBox, which I believe the current version is 7. And you can install that on any computer, Windows, Macintosh, Linux, any one of those computers, assuming that your computer has the virtualization feature turned on. You might have to boot into the setup and turn on virtualization. It's just simply a checkbox that you do, and by default, a lot of times it's turned off. And then you can install any one of those virtual machine products, VMware Workstation, VirtualBox, especially for non-Windows. And then you can get all kinds of great projects that you can download. Now, one place I like to go to, you can get some free projects, is GitHub. GitHub is now owned by Microsoft. They have a ton of free projects that you can download onto these virtual machines. And the nice thing about it is you can break these virtual machines and you can start over again, and no harm, no foul. You can get free versions, demo versions, 180-day demo versions that you can use over and over from Microsoft at the Windows Eval Center. Just type in Windows Eval Center in a Google search and you'll find it. And so you can download any version of Windows Client or Windows Server, for VMware or VirtualBox for half a year, which is fantastic. Another place you can sign up is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, known as CISA, CISA.org. Yes. CISA is great. It's the security agency that you can sign up for. Now, I've signed up a long time ago to get these updates for when some new vulnerability comes out. They send me an email anytime some new hack has come out, or and I learn a ton from them. It's a great place to go to get various different projects and information that you can do on your own.
Yeah, we love CISA around here. That's those are all great, and a lot of those I think are first time we've heard about that on the show. So there's some really great tips in here. I hope people are taking notes, whether on piece of paper or on their phone notes. I have one last question for you here, Robert. So one of the things that we talk about a lot on the show is that especially when you're just getting started in your career in cybersecurity, it's one thing to have, I have a certification on my resume that shows I can do that. But one of the things, especially for people who have no experience trying to get into a job that requires experience, is documenting outside experience that you've done. So some of these things it seems like would make really good kind of calling cards when you're trying to sort of show off what you can do. So, I think an important part of this whole endeavor is documenting what you've learned from these small projects. So do you have any tips for how to document completed projects in a way that others can understand and that you could maybe put on your resume?
Lots of good tips for this. Definitely want to write some of these down as well. So on the simple side, if I think about my first IT job, what I found was when I was troubleshooting issues, I would notice like every 2-3 weeks, maybe every month or so, the same problems would happen over and over. And that's because every, version of Windows that people were using had the same bugs in them as all the other ones. Oh, yeah. Or software that they were downloading and installing or whatever it was. And so what I found is that after a month, if you haven't seen that problem in a month, and I was solving 20 problems a day, so, over the course of a month, we're talking about hundreds of issues I've solved. A month later, that same issue comes up. I'm like, wow, I know I've seen this before, but I sure can't remember how I fixed it. Yeah, exactly. Right. I fixed it. I don't remember how I did it, but I fixed it. Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of, if you're using Microsoft Office and if you're a student, you can get Microsoft Office for free using your .edu email address. Then you can use OneNote. OneNote is a great way to, you can create a different note for every different project, if you'd like, or different operating system, different problems, however it is you want to organize it. OneNote is very customizable, very easy to use. It'll sit down in your system tray, so you can easily recall it. Now, if you want to get a little fancier, You can use, and again, Microsoft Office, you can use Microsoft Access. Access is sort of a simple, low-grade SQL server, right? It uses an MDB type of a database, so you can't put hundreds of thousands of records into it, but you can certainly put in thousands of records. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there if you want to learn how to create your Access database and customize it the way you want to. I've got over 4,000 videos on my YouTube channel, not just on Access, but Windows and other things. Yeah. That just that channel alone has plenty you can learn from there. You make your Access database, and then it's searchable. So the next time you have an issue, you say, hey, put in some keywords, click search, and boom, you saw how you solved it last time. Now, for employers, when you go to do an interview, here's a tip for you. Is that, let's say you've already got some experience in a job, or maybe you have experience in college, or on your own home lab, that you can relate to some of these questions that are coming, to you in this interview. Yes. Try to get, no more than around 5 really good stories. Because what you're going to find is pretty much any of the questions that they're going to ask you are going to relate to at least one of them. If you try to get 10 stories or 20 stories, you're not going to remember all the details right, and it's going to come out funny. But if you have 5 really good stories that you practice ahead of time, practice with your family, somebody in your family, practice with one of your friends, about, explain, how it is that something happened. Then when you do go to get interviewed, then you'll have all those different things down pat. So if they say, what did you do in order to, secure this computer from ransomware, or what happened when ransomware broke out? What did you do? And now you have a story, and you can talk about that, and you've got it, very well explained in your head. So now you can explain it, to that potential person.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great point. And I think it is hard to imagine, like, how am I going to put that on a resume in a way that they're going to, see it or whatever. But if you're in the interview, then it's going to be real easy to bring it up, like you said, you can crowbar it in as long as it makes sense to what they're talking about. But exactly. Say that, that reminds me of a story of this one time when blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, they're putting check marks next to your name in their hire pile. So
exactly.
All right. Well, that's all great advice. So I'm going to let you go here, but Robert McMillen, thank you so much for guiding our listeners through this important early phase of their studies.
My pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching this episode of CyberWork Hacks. If you enjoyed this video and felt that it helped you, please share it with your colleagues and on any forums you're on and on your social media accounts. And please like the video and subscribe to our podcast feed and our YouTube page. You can type in CyberWork Infosec on YouTube. You'll come to our page, just hit subscribe, hit the bell. Everything will be delivered to you just like magic. There's plenty more to come for listeners of all levels. And so if you have any topics you want us to cover about any aspect of the cybersecurity career experience, drop them in the comments below and we'll get to them very soon. But until then, we will see you next time. And this is Chris Senko saying happy learning. Hey, if you're worried about choosing the right cybersecurity career, click here to see the 12 most in-demand cybersecurity roles. I asked experts working in the field how to get hired and how to do the work of these security roles so you can choose your study with confidence. I'll see you there.